What's happening? Vincent here. The ramblings of. I guess I got more to say than I did earlier, or in addition to, beyond. I don't know, whatever I'm trying to say. We're out here in North Dakota. I started to say middle of nowhere, but if I said middle of nowhere, North Dakota, that would be a tad redundant. Now, wouldn't it? So, well, you could be in Fargo. Yeah, we started there today. Now we're into the parts of the state where there's just really not much of anything happening. And I always have to preface my remarks with barring the unforeseen, but looks like the Royal We has about a 2.5 hour drive, according to the GPS here. And I don't believe I'm going to do much of anything. There was a truck stop, looks like about 40 miles before I get into Williston. And it has laundry machines, apparently, but all the reviews were so terrible for the truck stop that I decided that I don't want to go there to do my laundry. And then, for whatever reason, where I'm going to be parking in Williston does not have laundry. And that's fine. I've got plenty of spare drawers and socks. So it's not like I have to wash my clothes. I guess I'm looking for something to do since I do have a bit of a motor. You know, always looking for an opportunity to get shit done. And I realized I was starting to talk about Los Angeles at the end of that last stream, and somehow I took a turn back into dating and relationships briefly, and then wrapped up the stream. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm strongly considering taking at least July and August off and getting an Airbnb in Los Angeles. As insane as I know that sounds to some of the few listeners of the channel, and shout out to you folks. There's a few. I don't even look at I have no idea how many views these videos do. I don't even, are people leaving comments? Am I being flamed in the comments? I've pretty much completely stopped going over there to my own channel. Although now I realize the comments the live chat is going, so I guess that's there until somebody shows up to shit it up. So we'll leave the chat there until somebody shits it up, and then we'll turn it off. And I have no idea. Once I get off the interstate in 27 miles, who knows if the signal will hold out. I suspect that it will. We'll see. It's the road between the interstate and one of the oil field areas. So I would expect to be able to have a cell signal on the highway. Expect. Did I say suspect? I would expect. And I think that would help me grind out however many more months of truck driving that would be, because and I think I've talked about this recently, man. My heart is just not in it at all. It's just not. Now, I'm not actively disliking it. Now I'm disgruntled, but I would say just about any long haul trucker with any amount of time on the job is. And in fact, Benton is not disgruntled. Benton is beyond disgruntled, which is actually a space. It's a term from gambling. I have always exceeded the threshold of misery with trucking. So, you know, if I'm working as a trucker, I've actually transcended and moved beyond just being disgruntled. And yeah, there's times when I in advocating for myself as a worker without representation, I, quit the job, and I mean it. Like, I mean to quit, and then I let them talk me out of quitting. I almost always let a company talk me out of quitting. Um, and eventually they just allow me to quit. It's pretty much how that goes typically. Sun Transportation Systems, they only talked me out of it once, and then they let me quit after that. But the safety manager dude that hired me just did not like the cut of my jib, certainly. And that's the only person I've directly sort of reported to that he still considers himself to be a truck driver. And it's like, yeah, I understand that you drove a truck before you do this, before you went into the office, but you don't drive a truck anymore, sir. Like, now you work in the office. So I guess in his mind, he's still a truck driver. It's like, well, no, you work in the office. You're not a driver anymore. Now I'm sure he could go back to it, but I gently reminded him of that a couple of times. He'd like to say, well, I'm a driver. And it's like, well, you were, and now you work in the office, but all right. Fair enough. Because I suspect he's been out of the truck long enough to have sort of forgotten, you know, it's human nature to sort of gloss over those, some of the negatives of the job, especially while hiring and having to attract and recruit and hire truck drivers, right? But anyway, yeah, I figured I might as well run my yap for part of this 2 hours and 24 minutes or whatever it's going to end up being. See, they have laundry. This would be a place to do laundry, but I'm not interested in extending the end of my workday by up to 2 hours. It's not into it. I'm gonna get to this truck stop and do whatever little bit I need to do and call it a day. Yesterday, man, just again, my heart is just not in it. I'm beyond disgruntled, which is kind of it's an interesting space to exist in because, other than the few times I sort of allow it to get to me, I'm just, all kind of crazy shit happens and I just sort of shrug my shoulders and just, well, what can I do about it? It just sort of is what it is. As it always is. I guess what I'm saying is I accept, that this is a nightmare industry and I would never recommend truck driving to anybody. And hell, I wouldn't wish a job on my worst enemy in this heaven or hell realm in 2026. Now, some folks are kind of made for jobs, and some folks is workaholics and wouldn't know what to do without employment, but I am not one of those people. I can absolutely make excellent use of my time without money or employment. I can always find something to do. Not a problem. And so back to LA, I would, so part of me says, well, if I go ahead and book the Airbnb and book the airfare, then at least that's something to look forward to. And it's like, yeah, I don't really operate that way, though. I don't really operate on a looking forward to, but it would probably make it more likely that I would manage to make it until July. And then that would be, if I'm going to take July and August off, I might as well take September off too, right? I'm not that interested in working the hot months, personally. if I don't have to. And I don't have to. Hell, I don't have to be doing this today. I don't have to be doing any of this. So, and now it would motivate me to continue making money until July because, I will easily spend 10 G's in 3 months of not working, between the rent and the travel and the food and whatever else I buy, right? And it sounds like a lot of money. I mean, it's not a lot of money. 10 grand, not a lot of money these days. It's really not. I found some pretty attractive options on Airbnbs, and the ones I'm looking at are a little closer to 1,600 a month, but I could spend about a grand more than that a month and get like a whole apartment, which is kind of crazy to think about. Whole apartment to myself. But really, all I care about is, can I make my egg drinks in the morning, and is there a toilet, basically? And I don't mind sharing a bathroom. It's just I have no interest in concerning myself with what would the people I would be sharing the bathroom with think of that, right? They're not going to bother me, but I might bother them. So it's probably better to just make sure I have my own toilet, I would imagine. 'Cause I think they'll tolerate my experience in Los Angeles, they'll tolerate a 50-year-old Southerner like me, but, maybe don't push your luck there, buddy. But yeah, we'll put up with you. I've only ever slept in my car. I haven't rented any rooms in the area. And people like money, and presumably that's why there's an Airbnb available if somebody wants some money. Cash is king. They say Christ is king. I say, what about cash, motherfucker? These rich folks will buy and sell your ass. Oh! Or they think they will. Full kitchens, clean studios, weekly, monthly rates at the Wyndham by Marriott out here in the middle of nowhere. I bet that's $150 a night. You probably get a week for $500. That Scotty Bear channel, I don't know if anybody's ever matriculated over there, but and part of this it is his grift, to some extent, and I think he does pretty good with the donos, sort of behind the scenes, and so now he's pretending to try to get an oil field job in Odessa, Texas, which I can't even say pretending. But the fact is, if he wasn't able to hack it in truck driving school, he's got no shot at the oil field, in my opinion. But that's not for me to determine. But, if some of his donators, if part of them donating is he needs to at least look like he's trying, then so be it, right? But I myself went out to the oil field in North Dakota at one point, figuring I might find some work. And what I found is there's definitely some barriers to entry. And I think just sort of culturally, or, there's something in the ether where, the people that live there and have made their lives there in the oil field, they see so many people coming through and just sort of this transient, nature of things, the intransigence. Uh, I think there needs to be some sort of commitment, right? Just spiritually or whatever for it to work out. No matter what that is, even if it's getting a job at a gas station or a truck stop and sort of starting to make some connections from there. And yeah, a lot of this stuff's corporate and they have websites and you go, fill out applications on their website. But I got to think it's culturally, again, it's probably enough of a sort of old boys network or it's kind of down home type of folks where you probably kind of have to physically, face to face meet somebody to kind of get blessed into the whole thing on some level, especially without experience or specialized skills, right? Just sort of, it's like, yeah, if we're gonna hire some bum off the road, I mean, any bum will do, right? So why this particular bum? So they can be a little selective, if the people that live there, they can be a little selective. Say, well, we might as well wait till they commit themselves at least to, whether that's renting a room or just taking a job that's not directly oil field related. What I think he's going to find is if he does get a job, it'll be something that seems like a decent hourly wage, but the rent's going to be so high, he's not going to be able to rent a room in the first place. And people could talk about economics all they want and, oh my God, the rents are high, and they are, but then, how do we reconcile that or juxtapose that with, as a single person or somebody who's just concerned with himself, how is it that I can drive a truck for, 6 months or whatever it's going to end up being, and I can take 3 whole months off and rent an Airbnb in a trendy area of LA and just bebop around on foot. Because that's what I like to do. I like to just walk around and look at shit. Probably get me a digital camera, take some pictures. LA in the summer, all that direct sunlight. I do have a bit of an eye for composition. And I don't know a damn thing about proper lighting, but I know when it's daytime in Southern California, more often than not, the light is going to be, if you're outside, the light's going to be perfect more often than not. And then the times it does get cloudy and rain, well, that's probably not going to be in July and August, but that's just a little bit of a contrast now, isn't it? I got some studying I'd like to do. For those who may know, I'm historically involved myself in a decent amount of reading and research and note taking and just sort of organizing my own whatever's going on in my head, philosophically or, I'm certainly finding more and more issues, more bones to pick with the Bible. So I've probably more or less exhausted my current level of understanding as far as being critical of certain aspects. And especially all this Apostle Paul stuff. Yeah, it's a mess, man. A lot of stuff gets, oh shit. Hang on, the road just got real slick. That's why I don't follow too close. I am starting to creep up on this guy in front of me, though, so we'll be going back out of it. Hell, it might be longer than 2.5 hours at this rate. It's funny, that tractor trailer up there, his trailer started sliding a little bit, and then there's a pickup in front of me, and he ass end of that came out right in about the same spot. So we're gonna slow our roll. Of course, I got plenty of traction with all this weight, so that's probably not gonna apply to me. We'll just slow it down a little bit. And what I figured out, man, is that this guy that owns this company that I'm allowing to employ me as a contractor, he's such a high level skilled salesman that if I do decide to take the summer off, I'm just going to have to book it and just be like, hey, man, this is what we're doing. And, I understand you would have preferred to have a conversation, but you're such a good salesman. I didn't want to run the risk of you talking me out of it or negotiating things more in your favor. So this is what it is. And if y'all want me back, I'll be happy to come back because I damn sure the chances of me going out here and trying to find a job in trucking with a recent incident on my record is probably not going to happen. I can't say that it's just out of the question, but that's unlike, especially with my criteria. I don't want to work on a W-2 and I don't want to work on a 1099 if I'm expected to make my own S Corp or LLC or whatever. Not into that. That seems like a violation spiritually to me. I'm still rattling around in the back of my mind buying a truck and going out to the oil field in North Dakota at some point, but I think I would want to save a significant amount of money above and beyond what I could get a pretty decent old truck for, which would be by the time I bought a truck and put whatever it needed into it, and then I have no idea how the insurance works on something like that because it's all, intrastate. It's just in North Dakota. So, it's not the same trucking as, long haul. It's not the same insurance. So I don't fucking know. And I could probably just, kind of DBA it. Yeah, I'd have some liability if some shit really went wrong, but I'm pretty sure I could figure it out, the financial side of things, without having to get into corporate. And that's this whole thing about, all these ideas of trusts and S corps and, the straw man and the all caps and all of this, and liability. And it's like, yeah, I understand that's all a thing. And I actually have I have a working knowledge of some of that, but at least enough to sort of strategize and fill in the gaps if I need to. But, spiritually, it just seems like the place just kind of has to let me operate on some level. I don't think it, whatever that is, the spirit of what I am, seems like it's undeniable in certain ways. Well, really in all ways, but and at some point, who knows, working for this company. Here's another reason to keep working at least till the summer. I have no idea when they're going to pull the plug on me with the tax situation. Maybe I can just do this indefinitely and nobody will ever say anything. Or maybe my employer will start getting harassed over the taxes. I don't know. So we'll see. But yeah, I think you're looking at about 20 G's minimum for a truck. It's like, yeah, I have that, but that's all my money. 20 grand between what the truck costs and whatever little bit it'll need, and the fuel to get out to the North Dakota, and fuel to idle if it's cold, while I'm figuring out what to do. And I think I'd want a truck in about 50 G's if I was going to commit myself to that. All right. There's a certain appeal to it. Just, I like a challenge. I'm not too old to do it at this point, you know, assuming my, no injuries and my health holds up, which it seems like it probably will. Hypothetically, if I adjusted to it and, you know, made myself valuable enough to people who would be willing to pay for my services, I'm pretty sure I could grind out 5 to 10 years, you know, and maybe take part of the summer off. So, I've been sort of had my ear to the ground for a while, and it seems like the main thing is, you know, I don't think they give a fuck if you're there in the summer, the locals. I think it's about who's here in the winter. I think that's all they give a fuck about. Who's here in the winter? This idea of people making a pile of money and then the next thing you know, they're always on vacation. And that's fine, except who's going on vacation in February or January or even March? Hell, I'm looking at snow right now. I'm driving on it. All right, I'm back. And I'm finding I got zero tolerance for anything that seems like edge lord commentary in my live chat. The fact is, I've been, I was an internet edge lord before most of you knew what the internet was or had ever heard of it. So I'm just at my age and my level of internet experience, which pretty much goes back to on a near daily basis all the way back to early 1994. I'm over it. So whoever that is, we'll let them try again tomorrow or the next day. I don't know what that was, but I'm not into it. But anyway, 66,333 miles. How about that on the old tractor? But I do seem to be like, if I was able to hack it, which you never really know till you try, but assuming I was able to hack it in the oil field doing, mainly just hauling water, from what I understand. First, I'd have to learn the job, obviously. And then, I'd be willing to work fairly cheap. Consider, oh, fuck. I think I just missed my exit. I don't know if I can do this or not. Shit. Yeah, we missed it. We missed it. God damn. How many miles is that going to add to the journey? Fucking A. That's a shame. Let's see what we're adding. We only added 11. That ain't too bad. Could be worse. Now I could have made it in a vacuum, but I was in the process of passing an RV, a full size pickup truck pulling a travel trailer, when I figured out I was just about to cruise right past my exit. And in a vacuum, I could have made it, but not. There's no way I could do all that slowing down after cutting back in front of him. Impossible. It was slightly questionable. I cut a little close to him, not like a dangerous situation. It's just normally I wouldn't even change lanes like that. But I'd at least get the truck in position to maybe, if it was doable, to take the exit. But because of all the ice and snow, I didn't have there wasn't enough room to get down to the proper speed. So looks like we get to go up and turn around and head back the other way. Yeah, we added about 11 miles. So it's just what it is. That happens sometimes, especially when I'm running my yap on stream. But yeah, what I was saying is, I found this channel, which it seems to be, a person in the oil field who, works in the trucking side of things in the oil field. And he's basically seems to be putting out content in order to recruit, fresh blood, new people to come out there and sort of giving them the information on how to get started, right? And in his latest video, he's describing more or less the type of person they're looking for, which really just boils down to somebody who's dependable, reliable, and shows up and works, and and doesn't create problems for whoever's putting them on, right? Whoever's giving them an opportunity, just whoever that is, whatever business person that is, they need to give somebody an opportunity because they need somebody to take some of the work off their plate. And, their main concern, of course, is they just don't want problems, right? And, people can make fun of me and this and that. Like when I'm working, I'm working. That's what I'm doing. I don't really do much else. When I'm working, now if this was some kind of time sensitive load, right? Well, I would already be ahead of the game because I'm early. I'm one of those, if I'm on time, I'm late people. So yeah, if I was delivering today and I was running my yap and missed my exit and added 11 miles, that could cause me to show up on time. And in my world, that's late. If I'm on time, I'm late. So that means I'm almost always early. That's what that means. And I find it easier when I'm working to just work. I don't need to be involved in a lot of other, there's no other people to worry about, or, I need to get home for this or that. And it's like, well, actually, I'll be living in the truck anyway. So what's the difference? All right, let's not miss this one now. About 7/10 of a mile from the next exit to turn around. And this guy, he said something on his last video that I'd kind of already figured out, which is if a person's going out there with their own truck, or they've got enough money to buy a truck right away. And we're not talking about anything fancy. We're talking like $10,000 to $20,000, or maybe even less. But I'd say 10 to 20 on a tractor. And what he was talking about was then as soon as possible buying a second truck, because that's back to the being reliable, which is really probably need if you're going to start out as a solo operator, especially on older trucks. If somebody's giving you a chance or giving me a chance, and my truck breaks down, well, if I know I've got a working truck, it's like, okay, drop that one off and go grab the truck that works and get right back to it. Because remember, all these people want to hear is they don't want any problems. So it's like, hey man, just so you know, my truck's broke down, but I've got a spare truck, so I've arranged whatever the arrangements need to be for me to get the spare truck in action. But just a heads up, this is what's going on. And as long as I'm on top of it, they don't give a fuck. It's like, yeah, fucking take care of it. Leave me alone. And it's definitely a man thing. Men are that way a lot of the time. I'm not saying that women aren't, but I think that's not completely dead in society. But I would say society, if it was ever leaned in that direction in a business sense, it's certainly seemingly gotten away from it. That's where I get confused. See, people have changed because I just did all of this and got turned around, and the whole time I was driving up to make the left turn to get back onto the on-ramp to go the other direction, there's just some lady sitting there in an SUV looking at me the whole time. Like, why didn't she just pull out in front of me and get onto the road? Like, I had to slow down so slow in a big rig to make that turn without sliding on that ice. I know she's got 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and it's a GMC SUV. People have changed, man. In the past, a person would not just sit there and watch me do all of that to then follow me up the on-ramp. It's bizarre, man. It's fucking weird. In her $85,000 GMC Yukon late model SUV with all the bells and whistles. She had plenty of time, and now she's probably just on her phone or whatever and looked up and then it was too late. But it's fucking weird, man. Very strange. And I've been driving for let's see, 5 hours and 45 minutes, and I've managed to keep the fucking windshield clear the whole time. And she just kicked a bunch of bullshit up onto my windshield that I can't, because if I hit the washer fluid, it's going to go all over the mirrors and the side windows. And it's 10 degrees. So that ain't going to work. Motherfucker, man. If she'd have done what she's supposed to do and just fucking go, she would have already been up to speed and wouldn't have kicked all that up on my windshield. But whatever. Yeah, she passed me. What the fuck ever. I'll be able to clear it up when I stop. Now I get to look at that. Oh, are we in the chat again? Hey, what's up, Jen? She's driving in Indiana. Yeah, a lot of wind, huh? Yeah, that's what I dealt with. The wind isn't bad here now, but it was pretty strong wind this morning. For sure. Pretty strong wind. But yeah, we were up to 10 people, and I've driven most of them away because most folks won't tolerate me complaining about the traffic or the way people drive. So they leave. Sometimes they come back. Sometimes they don't. But all right, let's make sure we don't miss the exit again. 2.2 miles. We make a left turn. At least this wasn't a total disaster. It's a minor inconvenience. Always good to see Miss Jen. Miss Jen. And I get it. It's a bit paradoxical with, especially with the spiritual concepts I've been talking about and the nature of economy and money and all of these things. And it's like, on the one hand, he's talking about all these concepts, and the next thing you know, he's talking about going out and making a pile of money in the oil field. Like, what the fuck's going on here? Well, hypothetically, I could make enough to, you know, frugally live out whatever would remain of my protracted experience of death, at least, you know. And if the just the currency completely collapses, it's like, well, oh well, that's just what happens, right? I'm not even that concerned about those things. I mean, there's no guarantees, obviously, but I ain't too worried about it either way. Oh, now I'm really torturing myself. Okay, never mind. I'm about to say this. Looks like I'm going to get stuck behind some slow trucks, but the one guy, he's just slowed way down because he's getting onto the interstate, so never mind. The other guy's probably going to haul balls anyway. Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Oh, all right. All right. Now I'm back to where I was supposed to be in the first place. How about that? Way to go, Bubs. It looks like ice and snow, but they must have salted the fuck out of this because I'm getting full traction. And another benefit, if I actually ended up, and again, this is all hypothetical, but you know, if I did have my own truck and worked out there, then you know, assuming I could get the thing registered properly to be able to leave and go other states with it, even if I wasn't hauling freight, you know, interstate, uh, I'd have the money to just drive the thing, you know, out of the oil field and take a few months off and just idle the truck and live in the truck, you know. Because I don't know that well, I don't know if I'd be able to idle in California necessarily. Just, you know, anyway, there'd be some options. But as far as a lot of people, it seems like they make their money starting out as a solo driver out there in the oil field and then the oil field. And then they, you know, eventually buy more trucks and hire drivers and, you know, have a fleet of trucks and all of this. I'm not sure I give a fuck about that side of it. I think I think what I would bring to the table is it's just like, well, I'm already out here. I might as well just work. Might as well just work every day. I mean, I'm already working long hours every fucking day for the most part. I mean, it's not like I'm driving around and, you know, it's not the worst of the worst of the North Dakota winter, but I've been truck driving in the -20 before. Air temperature, not the wind chill. Of course, I guess a person doesn't really, they won't really know how they react to that until they do like a whole winter of, the day in and day out of that. It's one thing to experience it and then get a break from it and then experience it versus just, it's wintertime and it's fucking cold and it snows and it's just, you know, there's no respite, no respite. Ah, fuck. God damn it. One thing I don't like, man, I've been driving with with the fucking axles locked. I wonder how long I've been doing that. Hmm. Could have been a while. I'm trying to think when did I last engage it? Motherfucker. Well, the one thing is it's so fucking cold out here. I don't think I could damage anything from the standpoint of the diff's getting too hot because it's 10 degrees on my dashboard. So I probably don't have to worry about damaging the differentials. I guess the only thing is, tire wear, but I wasn't really going around any curves, so we're probably all right. I'm assuming I flipped it on when I exit. Oh, I smell something. That might just be those people that went by me, though. Yeah, that was the plow. That was the friction from the plow. That's what that is. I'm smelling. Yeah. So now I'm a little prone to paranoia to some extent. This goes along with the perfectionism. But hell, it's wintertime. I think we're all right. Hopefully. I hate tearing shit up, but we'll see. I'll know when I look at the tire tread. But I stopped and took a 30-minute break, and I know I had it on, but I remember turning it off then when I rolled out of there. So yeah, I don't. You're not supposed to have it engaged at highway speeds, but I think we'll be all right. Now, some of these differentials, they figured out how to design them where they automatically disengage above a certain speed, but I don't think this is one of those. Pretty sure this doesn't have that feature. Now, the internationals do something that I prefer, which is they beep at you the whole time you have it engaged. Wish this one did that. Oh shit. One thing about winter driving, sometimes the road is unexpectedly like, looks a little slick. It's like, well, we're going 65 and we're damn sure not using the brakes. So just, but yeah, we're so heavy. We're good to go. Alignment too, man. Getting this new alignment on this truck definitely helps. It's a whole new ball game, man. Sometimes in trucking, it's the little things. And getting the PM done, and they change the fuel filters, and it's funny because I'm not. I'll just go ahead and put it out there. I don't. You're supposed to do a pre-trip inspection. I don't inspect the equipment before every. I don't do that every trip, and I'll tell you why. I'm supposed to do it once a day, and the main reason is because the vast majority of the time I'm trying to roll out of a truck stop at 2 a.m. and that bitch is full, and I can't show myself without being descended upon by the vultures who are circling trying to find a parking space. And I'm not going to be out there for 15 minutes checking the equipment. It's not going to happen. And then if the truck stops full, if I'm not actually getting fuel, I can't necessarily just go block a fuel. It's like if I leave my parking space, there's really nowhere to go at that point. You just pretty much just have to leave the truck stop. Some people are like, oh, I wouldn't care, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, I got the hypervigilance. And these people are so aggressive. It's like, I don't want to be talking to some random bozo at 2 a.m. and, trying to explain to them that I'm leaving. It's just going to be a minute. Now, the really crafty ones don't show themselves, and they get out of the way as far as possible, and they observe, and then the moment I do, they let me do my thing, and then as I'm leaving the space, they just perfectly are in position to start backing in. Like, yeah, that's the way to do it. Don't let me know you're there in the first place. Pretty pleased with sugar on top. Leave me the fuck alone. But either way, uh, I didn't really realize how badly the fuel filter needed to be changed until I saw what a brand new one looks like. And then I remembered, because I do actually open the hood and take a peek around from time to time. So in stark comparison, I was like, holy shit, I just didn't realize that it probably should have been replaced a little earlier. But although I did drain it once, I drained most of the, because eventually enough water builds up. It's a water separator, basically. Enough water will build up in there eventually, and if you don't drain it, it's a mixture of diesel and water, and if you don't drain that out, eventually even if the filter is not just completely in need of replacement, it will creates an effect where it loses some of its filtering capability, if that makes sense. So if people talk shit on these mega carriers, that my training engineer with Snyder taught me how to do that. I wouldn't have known how to do that. He showed me and the other student how to do that, He just said, yeah, basically he said do it every time. Because I think those big companies, they don't replace stuff unless it needs to be replaced. So he was basically said, every PM or whatever the schedule is, every so often. He said, don't drain like half of it. Don't drain all of it. All right. Will do. They got the good Verizon out here. I've had the 5G Ultra. No, it's funny. As soon as I said that, it went away. I was looking at the little on my phone, the 5G Ultra wideband icon, and like the second I said it, it turned to LTE. But either way, either way. I will say, and I'm an Android guy. I've never had an iPhone. I don't think I've ever spent my own money for a brand new Apple product ever. At a certain point, somehow I ended up with an iPod, and that thing was pretty cool. I have to say that it was like the first gen iPod, I want to say, but it was already had been out for a while. I think somebody gave me one, maybe. That thing was pretty fucking cool. Other than that, I've never had anything Apple. When I worked in the computer lab, I had to learn just the bare basics, because I was working as a computer lab operator in college. So I had to learn just enough to be able to, if somebody needed some help on the Apples, on the Macs. And I think they showed me at one point, how to do a system restore off the network and all of that. If sometimes the software will take a shit and needs to be or somebody fucks it up somehow. And I think I did that a few times just to sort of know how to do it. I didn't really fuck with it after that. And I would write papers. I remember in college, I used the Macs for my schoolwork. There was times when, and I went to school so long ago that in fact, we had a computer. We started having computers in school, as I was getting into high school. Even I want to say, yeah, when I first got to high school, at least one of my classes, there was we had a couple of Apple IICs. Back then it was, if you did have a computer in the classroom, it seemed like it was more likely to be an Apple. That's how old I am. And then when we moved to Heber Springs, we had an entire, a computer class. I took a computer class, and, they had an entire room of PCs. And I think that's the first time I ever got I had regular access to a Windows PC. Was my senior year of high school, 1993. So this idea that I grew up with computers and technology, it's well, not really. I was damn near not grown, but I was damn near an adult. 17 years old. All right, we're back on the 5G ultra wideband. Yeah, back to my phone. I bought a refurbished Google Pixel 9 Pro XL. It was $500, $499 plus tax. Got a case, all of that. But been pretty happy with it, I must say. Oh, we got comments coming in. Oh, Jen, yeah, Apple. Oh, you work for that's pretty cool. Like at the Apple store or the headquarters. I did not know that. And I'll say this, I was a computer nerd, back in the day, and a big part of me not having Apple was that historically Apple's products are significantly more expensive. And it wasn't this idea that I was too good for Apple. It was more that couldn't even really afford it necessarily. But I still preferred PC anyway. It's definitely a preference. And I'd say in a vacuum, I probably prefer Android. But I've never really used an iPhone enough to know, honestly. 8 degrees. I think the coldest I've seen today has been 6. But I believe the temps are supposed to be dropping and maybe going negative tonight. I do believe. Yeah, I'm sure Android's weird if somebody's never used it. If they've only ever used Apple. When I completely broke up with Windows, I stopped using Microsoft Windows years ago now. So I wouldn't run Windows if you paid me. I would. Well, in fact, I would. I would definitely run Mac OS or whatever they call it on a PC before I would fuck with Windows again. That's for sure. Thanks, but no thanks. Trash. And even on Linux, at a certain point, I realized that you can't even really use Google Chrome browser because it more or less just uploads your entire computer to Microsoft. Bizarrely, like, what is this? You have to get the hacked version where they remove all that crap, or just use a different browser. But hell, I don't even have a computer right now. So what's the difference? Now I'm on a 2-lane highway and I'm realizing I might have fucked up because I don't know where I'm going to stop if I need to take a leak. Looks like there's a little truck stop or something up ahead, potentially. Let's see. Something or other. Yeah, a little travel center. So we might try to cruise on in there. 10 miles up the road. That's another thing with me in trucking, man. I go to the bathroom a lot. It's crazy, man. I don't know if it's my health. I've always been that way the whole time I've been a truck drive. The whole time I've been in trucking, but my kidneys are in real good shape. But it just seems like I've always been a person that just urinates frequently, but not. You can't say that to somebody because they just are like, oh, are you must be diabetic. It's like, well, except I have a DOT physical on a regular basis because then they check me for it. So no, I don't have diabetes. So I don't know what to tell you. I do take a lot of supplements and herbs that are that claim to be diuretics, but you know, I don't know that that's the entire cause either. And I drink a lot of water, but I don't know. I don't know, man. Maybe I'll remember to clean the windshield off when we stop. Although now that I'm on this 2 lane, I don't think it matters because the big rigs going the other way are just going to mess it up again. All the spray coming up off the road. How long have I been yapping? An hour and 8 minutes. Wow. Goodness. Well, hopefully, once I get out of all this mess, that'll be the last of the winter weather. It's the middle of March, ain't it? March 15th, man. How close am I to Canada? Well, now that we're headed north, we're probably not that far, right? 300 miles, maybe 400 miles. Let's see. Does Google Maps know? Even closer than I thought. So when I get to the town this delivery's in, I'm only like 60 miles from Canada. How about that? Of course, when I'm in, Buffalo or whatever, that's. And if you look, a lot of people don't realize if you look at Detroit, Michigan on the map, it's north of Toronto. So it's like, it's not that unusual to be close to Canada, I guess. I don't think I've gone to Detroit with this company though. Now that I think about it, maybe I have. Can't remember. I don't think so. No, I'd remember that. All right. Well, I've run out of steam, so bye.